Time to talk up Texas here at the Voice of College Football. We got Matthew Miller on the line. He hosts our Texas post game right here at the Voice of College Football. So starting up next season, again for a second season, you can join him after each and every Texas football game. Matthew, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Mark. Excited for Texas football to start back up again. Hopefully, it's a better year than last year.
A lot of work to get to. And we're going to focus on the offense. We're going to go position by position, have Matthew back on to check out the defense at another date with spring practice starting on March 22nd. All right, before we get to position by position, just the overall performance of the offense. Obviously, this is Steve Sarkisian's baby. He's an offensive-minded guy. Just your thoughts about his approach, what we saw at Alabama versus what he tried to do last year and what it could look like going forward.
Yeah, so last year compared to Alabama, obviously you're working with a bunch of different weapons from Alabama to Texas. I think Texas, Bijan Robinson is just as good as anyone like Najee Harris that Alabama had when Steve Sarkisian was there. But then you get to the wide receiver position, and you have Xavier Worthy, and I'd put him up there with Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, and Jalen Waddle. But the problem is you have one of them. They had four when he was there. And you also had John Mechie. Didn't even talk about him, along with Jaleel Billingsley, who's now at Texas. But that's just a plethora of weapons you have to work with at Alabama that you didn't have at Texas. And that's what he's building up. You've got some transfers in. You got someone like Isaiah Nayer, who's coming in from Wyoming, who's going to be a big, big, impactful player for this program. And that's what we need. We need more weapons, and I think you'll see the playbook expand more. Obviously, I think his playbook's kind of hard to get used to because there's a lot of motions, a lot of bubble screens, stuff like that. I think every player kind of needs to know every position. It's kind of fluid that way. So I think you'll see it expanded more, and I think you'll see more shots taken this year with more big play threats on the field now and in the program.
All right, let's break down position by position. We will start at the quarterback spot. Of course, that went the way of Hudson Card out of camp last year. A couple games into the season, Casey Thompson takes over, leads the Big 12 in touchdown passes. Now he's at Nebraska, so Hudson Card in the competition against Quinn Ewers. And I'm sure that's who Texas fans want to see, but he's never thrown a pass.
Yeah, I know. There's all this hype around him, and obviously there's good reason for that. He's one of the, I believe, 7 or 8 perfect prospects in the history of high school recruiting on 247. Texas is the only one with two to ever get 2 of them. You got Quinn Ewers, you got Vince Young a long time ago, and Vince Young brought a national championship. So those are kind of the expectations flung onto Quinn's shoulders. Like, look what Vince Young did. That's your comparison, basically. So that's a lot to throw on him, and we've never seen him take like a real college snap that's meaningful. We saw at Ohio State he would come in, but they're up by so much, it did not matter. I could have come in, did what he did, so it did not matter. So we'll see what happens in these spring games, these live reps. Or spring practices, and then obviously the spring game. And then the spring game will probably be the most important game he's ever taken a snap in, to be honest with you, because at Ohio State, like I said, those are blowouts. He's coming in just to mop up duty. And then we'll see who's the starter versus Louisiana Monroe, and more importantly, who's the starter week number 2 versus Alabama.
So they've got another date with Louisiana.
Not Louisiana, Lafayette, Monroe this time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. That's a much different deal.
Yeah.
Now, they did win that game by 3 touchdowns, but still different opponent. They should be able to cruise through that and look at Alabama. Hudson Card, how much of a shot do you give him, and what did you see out of him last year?
I give him a decent shot. I probably give him a higher shot than most people that talk about the program or cover the program. Most people think this is going to be just given to Quinn for the most part. I don't. I think this is going to be a battle, and Hudson Card's very highly touted. I mean, before Quinn Ewers came in, and last year we were talking about Hudson Card like we were talking about Quinn Ewers, a very highly touted 4-star recruit. They used to play wide receiver, very athletic, had 1,000 yards as a wide receiver. And you saw that last year. He had his good pocket mobility. The problem is his presence. He doesn't know where the pressure was coming from at certain times. That would get him in trouble. And then there was either somewhat of a leash put on him, or he put it on himself where he had chances to run and he didn't get a chance to run because he chose that, or someone was telling him not to do that. So that's something I want to see from Hudson Card, is be aware of your surroundings better and have better when you see an opening, take it, because that could be the difference between if that split-second decision making. If you had 7 yards to run in the beginning and you wait, that could be a 3-yard run now. So he needs to be more decisive as well.
Got Matthew Miller on the line talking up Texas football. Matthew hosted our Texas post-game show at the Voice of College Football after every Longhorns game, coming off of 5-7, expecting a whole lot more. Bijan Robinson may be the very best in the business. Is there any reason to doubt his performance? He just needs a little blocking up front. Roschon Johnson definitely impressed me as a capable backup.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about the running back position, this is definitely the deepest position on this roster for Texas. You have Bijan Robinson, who I think will end up in New York for the Heisman if we can just get average on offensive line play. Obviously, coming off the broken forearm, broken wrist, I believe it was actually on the second to last not play, but game of the year. And then also you have, like you said, Roschon. Roschon has come in from jump, basically, and you saw his vision. And I think that kind of makes sense, because really all you're doing is sliding over to the right or left a couple yards, and you got the same vision that you would have as quarterback. So I think that kind of helps him. And what we saw this year is Yancey McKnight, the old strength coach, was more of full steam ahead. He wants you as powerful as you can be. And we saw a lot of not as much lateral quickness under that program. Under this program, you see a lot more lateral quickness, and I was very impressed with the explosive ability Roschon Johnson showed. And then you have Jonathan Brooks, who played a little bit last year. Very, very good player. Shouldn't have been a 3-star. Don't know why he was. He played really well when he came in. And then Jaden Blue, a 4-star, who sat out all of last year of high school and just decided to get ready for his freshman college season, and probably would have ended up a high 4-star, low 5-star instead of a mid 4-star. So that room is definitely the deepest of any of this program.
Yeah, once Bijan went down, Roschon Johnson with a big game against Kansas State to finish off the year as Texas finally got off the losing streak. 31 carries for $179 and a touchdown for Roschon Johnson and 5.9 yards per carry for the season. So definitely one of the better backup running backs in college football, backing up arguably the best. Matthew, once we turn to wide receiver, you talked about the addition of Isaiah Naylor. He caught 44 passes at Wyoming last year. And Xavier Worthy and he could make quite the tandem.
Yeah, big play threat. I think he averaged over 15 yards of reception, maybe even more than that. So we have two big play guys, and this is going to take the pressure off of Xavier Worthy, because if Xavier Worthy had a phenomenal freshman season, probably the best for a wide receiver in the history of Texas football. So I expect a lot of double teams, a lot of the safety shading over to his side of the field. And if Isaiah Naylor shows he can beat any type of one-on-one coverage, you're not going to be able to do that for the most part. So that will really help out. Obviously, if Jordan Whittington can stay healthy, that's a big part of the picture. He's a very good wide receiver when he is healthy. The issue is he hasn't been healthy. And then obviously from there on out, it kind of becomes a competition for the fourth wide receiver, in my opinion, between Brennan Thompson, Marcus Washington, and the incoming freshman Brennan Thompson, or I already said that, Brennan Thompson from Spearman. He's very fast. He brings a lot of the tools that Xavier Worthy does. We'll see if he can have any type of impact like Xavier Worthy did. If he can give us 50% of what Xavier Worthy did, I think that's a phenomenal freshman season. Xavier Worthy's freshman season was extraordinary, and you don't really see that very much. So I would not put those expectations on him.
So based on the way Sark runs an offense, Nair and Worthy are known commodities. Whittington, to a certain extent, he certainly played against quality competition. You pretty much need 4 wide receivers to be confident in.
I would say 3 for sure. 4 would be ideal. And you can count Jaleel Billingsley in that as well. I think you're going to see a lot more of him flex out wide where he's more comfortable, instead of right next to the offensive line in the line of scrimmage, expecting him to block. I think that's suicide. He's not a good blocker. He's much more athletic than anything we've had at the tight end position in a long time. So flex him out and use him like a wide receiver. I think that will come in handy. So if he could step and be the 4th one, that'd be fine too. But it'd be nice to have a 4th wide receiver that you can trust on this roster.
Yeah, Whittington caught 26 passes, 3 touchdowns last year, so he's certainly played substantial time in the Big 12 against that competition. We got Matthew Miller on the line, break down Texas football. The Horns go to spring practice starting March 22nd. The spring game is 1 month later and a day, April 23rd. All right, K. Brewer still in the mix at tight end?
I believe no, he actually left the program. He is graduated. He's moved on. So it's basically going to be Juan Davis, sophomore, Jaleel Billingsley, and then Gunnar Helm would be your three tight ends there competing for the position, and Jatavian Sanders. That's who you want to step up. He was the number one recruit that we had last year in last year's high school class. He was an edge defender as well in high school. And personally, I think he's a better edge defender, but he wanted to play offense. So with the guy that's special, you let him play wherever they want. But again, I've always held this position. If he doesn't get on the field this year, if he doesn't see significant playing time at tight end, the coaches need to sit him down and say, listen, you're playing edge defender or you're leaving. And hopefully, I would love to see him pop and play tight end, but we'll see. He's a fantastic athlete.
The top 5 signees from the 2022 class that are early enrollees all play on the defensive side of the ball. Now, I'm looking at the guys that have signed letters of intent who have yet to reach campus, and I see the top 3 rated are offensive linemen, which is a good thing for a program that's struggled along the offensive front, although it's difficult probably more so at offensive line than any other position besides quarterback to come in instantly and make an impact. There's a lot of growth, a lot of chemistry and cohesion that needs to be factored into playing along the offensive line. So how does the offensive line look coming into 2022? I see that Jake Majors started 12 games at center.
Yeah, right now, I think you have 2 guys pinned in at the offensive line position. I think there's going to be a battle for the other 3 positions. I believe Majors is your starting center, and then Angelau is going to be either your right guard or left guard, whatever one they prefer him to be at. And then you're going to see a gigantic battle for all those positions. On the screen, obviously, you got Hayden Connor, Kelvin Banks, and Christian Jones. Among that, you have Nato. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name because I would butcher it. Then you have Devon Campbell, who I think does start at the other guard position. I just think he's a special player, one of the top 10 players in this class. I think he slides right in. And then you already have Kelvin Banks up there, along with Malik Ogbo and others. I mean, there's so many guys that are coming in that are freshmen. I just want as much competition as possible that the best people win. I do think we're going to have at least one freshman starting on the offensive line. That is my prediction.
So I made a mistake in the graphic there. Kelvin Banks in the 2022 class, not a returnee, but my goodness, they loaded up on the offensive side. Up front, as you mentioned, Devon Campbell, yes, number 1 rated player as a guard center in the country, top 10 player overall. Kelvin Banks is the 3rd rated tackle in the country, and Nato is the 4th rated guard center in the country. So 3 of the very best coming in. We'll see their readiness for it, but in regards to high level talent, they certainly Sark went after the huge need on the team.
100%. And there was a press conference where someone had questioned him about that about halfway through the season, maybe 3/4 of the way through. And someone said, so when are you going to get these offensive linemen that you've been speaking of? He's like, if I wanted 5 offensive linemen, I could have 5 offensive linemen right now. And everyone's like, you could? And yeah, he could. Because if he saw the class, I mean, he ended up with really good offensive linemen. I believe they ended up with 7. So, and Cam Williams is a 3-star, but he is a monster. That guy is huge. I believe he's 6'7", 360. Plays basketball. I think he's going to be a really good player as well.
I don't know that anybody in the country brought in that kind of offensive line haul outside of maybe Texas A&M and Alabama. Maybe that's pretty impressive. Yes. Matthew Miller here breaking down the horns for us, and certainly he was here after every Texas game, taking your comments and questions, and had to live through 5 and 7 with all of you online. What are your expectations of this offense? And I know that that's a loaded question considering you don't even know who the starting quarterback's going to be. Running back set, wide receiver, a few things need to be worked out, but you know what you got in terms of your frontline guys. It's pretty much quarterback and offensive line are the question marks. But in regards to a reasonable upgrade of this offense, what would you like to see that you didn't see last year?
I would just say consistency, and that's just with the whole team, but especially with the offense, just consistency. You would see like Oklahoma, the first half, for example, and then the second half. Like what happened to all these big plays down the field? What happened to all these jet motions, jet sweeps, just motioning in general. That's the one thing that we got frustrated as Texas fans. There'd be certain games where Sark would use motion a lot and it'd work, and then there would be other games where he just doesn't use it, and there'd be certain plays that he uses that work, and then he never abandon them for some reason. I just want to see more consistency in the stuff that works. So if it's working, I believe in the philosophy of if it's not broke, don't fix it. Do what Bill Belichick does. When Bill Belichick plays a team and he'll run 8 times in a row if it's working. Who cares if they know what's coming? If it's working, it doesn't matter. So I'm of that philosophy. So I think Sark needs to be more of that philosophy, as well as if it's don't broke, don't or if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And hopefully he will do that. I mean, you saw that a lot with Devontae Smith at Alabama. They would run the same plays, just at different sides a lot of the time, and just let him do what he needed to do, get the ball in his hands and let him go to work. I would love to see that with Xavier Worthy and Isaiah Nayer. I think those are 2 special guys that if you get the ball in their hands, they can make a lot of guys miss, especially in the Big 12. I think the Big 12 gets a lot of hate for the defense they play, but it's still not great defense league by any means. So just the ball in your playmakers' hands and let them go to work.
I know that there's a lot of uncertainties for a team that won 5 games last season, but in regards to the veteran talent now mixed with, you know that some guys are going to need time to develop, even though they're high 4 stars or 5 stars, but there's going to be a lot of them that are going to be able to make an immediate impact. That looking at the talent level and the rosters on the Big 12, I know Baylor and Oklahoma State were really good last year, but they lose a lot. I just got to think that if the coaching and development is what it should be with an entire off season, that this is the team that could make a push this season in the Big 12.
Mark, you sound like every Texas fan for the last decade. You look at the talent, you look in the offseason, you get this hype train rolling. You're thinking, oh, 9-3, 10-2. My expectations. This started last year. I just wanted to keep the expectations neutral. I was thinking 8-4. And to be honest, I would be happy with 8-4 this year. I think not this upcoming season, but the next upcoming season is the year where they have to put it together. They will be forced to put it together. If not, there's going to be I think probably some firings. I don't know. That's because if you do move into the SEC and let's say you go 7-5, not this next upcoming season, but the year after, you're going to be in trouble. So I think this is the year to get cohesion amongst the team, start to build something. And if you go 8-4, I can live with that. Anything less than, I'm going to start to question. But I think 8-4 is what we kind of need. And like you said, there's a lot of talent on this roster, and there's a lot of guys returning and a lot of new incoming people that are talented as well. And Quinn Ewers, I think if he ended up here last year and just sat on the bench the whole year and then came in, I think the expectations would be higher, as they should be. I think him just coming into the program right away and just changing it overnight is something that I just don't think is going to happen, personally.
That Alabama game, nobody expects them to win that game, but they're at home, and it's a great barometer game just to see if, not from just a talent standpoint, but from the standpoint of keeping their composure, poise, fight. I don't want to discount the Sam Ellingers of the world and other players that have shown great grit and fight for this program, but that hasn't been a calling card for Texas football during this swoon, that they're going to stand toe-to-toe with a worthy opponent and fight for 4 quarters to the end. So that's going to be a great barometer, of course.
100%. And it kind of reminds me of the 2019 LSU game. I think that was a barometer for both teams. Obviously, LSU, that kind of went on to elevate them and push them towards the national championship. If you ask people on that roster, Ed Orgeron even said it. After that game, I knew we had a national championship team, whereas Texas, they lost and then fell apart. So I think it could be that same type of situation. I mean, Alabama's returning Bryce Young and Will Anderson, so I don't expect much. I think that's going to be very hard to overcome. I expect them to be preseason number 1. But if we can stay within 2 touchdowns, I think that's a good showing for us. And I think we have a chance of doing that. We have the talent to do it. And if Quinn Ewers is who we expect him to be right away, I mean, we definitely have a shot. So I'm not going to count us out, but I'm not going to get my hopes up either.
Matthew Miller did a great job hosting our Texas post game here at the Voice of College Football after every Longhorns game. Matthew, we appreciate you stopping by. We'll have you back and set up the defense. We've got about 3 weeks to go.
Thanks, Mark. It's always nice to be on.